What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports here on the Michigan channel at the voice of college football. If you're a Michigan fan, make sure you subscribe to the channel for Michigan football content all year round. We're going to preview the 2022 schedule for Michigan, break it all down. But before we do that, let's look back at the 2021 schedule. The 2021 schedule for Michigan wound up working out pretty well. They got Ohio State at home. That made a difference. You had Washington in the non-conference, thought that was going to be a tough game, but it wound up being an easy win for the Wolverines. Wisconsin and Nebraska, Penn State, Maryland, all road games that we thought would potentially trip up this Michigan team, but they took care of business in all of those games. That Wisconsin win, looking back at it, a really impressive win, and that's when we knew that this Michigan team was a little bit different, and they went on to, of course, win the Big Ten championship, go to the college football playoff. Just a great season for Michigan. But now let's turn the page to 2022, see if this schedule is going to be kind to the Wolverines. Here is the schedule. Before we break down each game, let's take a look at who they play outside of the division, because of course we know Michigan will play every team in the Big Ten East. So in the non-conference, they'll play Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn. You can't ask for a much easier non-conference schedule than that. I mean, those should all three be easy wins for Michigan. They do not have a marquee matchup in the non-conference this year, which is, depends on how you look at it. It's good for the schedule being easier. You'd like to maybe have a big non-conference matchup to show you what you can do, but still, the Big Ten's a pretty tough conference, and you look at who they play in the Big Ten West. They'll play Iowa on the road. That might be the toughest potential matchup that you could have out of the Big Ten West, as a road game at Iowa. We don't know if Iowa's going to be on top of the West this year, but we know it's a tough place to play, and they should be right there near the top if they're not at the top. So that is a very tough draw there. They get Nebraska at home. That's another game that could be pretty tough. Nebraska, we know how many close games they lost last season. You figure that this team will be pretty good this year, maybe in contention to the Big Ten West, but the good news is Michigan gets them at home. They'll play Illinois at home as well. So not a too tough of a draw out of the West, but it's about average, I guess. Iowa, one of the top teams. Nebraska, probably middle of the road. Illinois towards the bottom. So you get one of each if you're Michigan. So let's go back to the schedule, see how it plays out. They will open up on September 3rd against Colorado State. Then on September 10th, they'll play Hawaii. September 17th, they will play UConn. So they'll play their three non-conference games, first 3 weeks, all at home. If you're trying to break in some new players, especially on that defensive side, this is how you want to do it. You want to have some easy games there at the start. Don't even have to go on the road. So a very, very easy month of September. They will play Maryland on September 24th. It is a home game. Maryland figures to have a pretty good offense this year, so that could potentially be a challenge. Could be a shootout when you look at these two teams. But Michigan should be the better team, and they're playing at home. So you look at them in the month of September, there's no reason why this team should not be 4-0 at the end of September. Very easy start. But then it gets a little bit tougher. Take a look at the month of October. They will play Iowa on the road on October the 1st. Again, that's going to be a very tough game. Outside of Ohio State, that might be their toughest game this year just because it's on the road. I'm not saying Iowa will be the second best team that they play. They might be, but playing them on the road, that is going to be a very, very tough matchup. That's going to be tough. Then you've got Indiana after that on October the 8th. We know Indiana was a disaster last season. I expect them to be better this year. They've been working that transfer portal. The game is on the road, but still Michigan should clearly be the better team. That's one of those trap games in between Iowa on the road and then Penn State. If you don't bring your A game, that one could be tricky, but you have to like Michigan's chances on the road in that one. Penn State after that on October the 15th. This will be a home game for Michigan. Then they get a bye week after Penn State before Michigan State. So a really good spot for a bye week. You have this tough stretch with Iowa and Indiana on the road and Penn State at home. Then you get the bye week to prepare for Michigan State. That is a very good spot, in my opinion, for a bye week. So they'll have 2 weeks to get ready for Michigan State. Then they'll play a Rutgers team, a Rutgers program that seems to be starting to turn the corner a little bit. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the top of the Big Ten or anything like that. They will play them on the road, though. That'll be November 5th. Then you have the game against Nebraska on November 12th. Illinois after that on November 19th. And then the big one at the end on November 26th. They will go on the road to face Ohio State. So I think the schedule sets up pretty well for Michigan. Again, an easy start in the month of September. Interesting that you play Nebraska and Illinois there in the final two games before Ohio State, two games that are not even in the division. But that month of October is probably going to make or break Michigan. On the road at Iowa, and then especially Penn State and Michigan State. Indiana maybe could be a competitive game. We'll have to wait and see how good the Hoosiers are. But with Iowa, Penn State, and Michigan State, if Michigan were to lose a couple of those games, it's going to really change the season, and it's going to make that Ohio State game not as meaningful. But if they can get through that stretch by winning, obviously all three would be great. But if you win 2 out of the 3 with Iowa, Penn State, and Michigan State, you win 2 of those games, and let's say they lose to Iowa. That would be, best case scenario. Either way, though, with 1 loss, if they go into that Ohio State game with 1 loss, then we know more than likely they are going to be playing for a spot in the Big Ten championship. So a schedule that is pretty easy, to be honest, for a Big Ten team. No hard non-conference games. The Big Ten West crossover isn't brutal. They get both Michigan State and Penn State at home. So this schedule sets up for Michigan to where, once again, they could be playing Ohio State at the end of the season for a spot in the Big Ten championship game.